You're very welcome to the programme. This evening we're coming to you from the Shannon region to mark a very special birthday. This year is the 85th anniversary of the establishment of the ESB, and to mark the occasion, the Taoiseach Kenny is coming here to the Ardnacrusha Power Station tomorrow afternoon. Ardnacrusha was the ESB's first power station, and when built, the 86 megawatt plant was adequate to meet the electricity needs of the entire country. Mary Malone has been looking back at the history of this most iconic power station.
Donald Ryan began working here at Ardnacrusha in 1947, less than 20 years after the hydroelectric station was built. Today, Donald is back to visit the ESB power plant, where he spent almost half a century of his working life.
Hello, Donald. Welcome back to Ardnacrusha. It's a while since we've seen you.
In the aftermath of the Civil War, Ireland in the early 1920s was a fledgling state, bypassed by the Industrial Revolution and beset by poverty. There was a gaping need for power to facilitate progress. A young engineer, Tom McLaughlin, brought home a hugely ambitious proposal from his employers, Siemens Schuckert in Germany, to harness the power of the Shannon at Ardnacrusha and establish a national distribution network to replace the hundreds of small local power stations then in existence.
It was very cheap power, even in those days, and we found we could deliver it in the towns and villages cheaper than they themselves could generate electricity by any other means.
The new Minister for Industry and Commerce, Patrick McGilligan, encountered some opposition because of the cost of the project, over £5 million of the entire annual state budget of £25 million. Nevertheless, the government did give the go-ahead in 1925.
And that was a difficult point then I reached, because here I was with approval from the Parliament to develop this scheme. Expenditure then based on £5 million odd, and the question, how was it going to be done?
In August 1925, the contracts were signed and work was set to commence on this huge project, which had an immediate impact on Ireland's social, economic and industrial development.
It became known as the eighth wonder of the world once it started. For the Germans, it was tremendously important as a showcase, also to re-establish their name as a worldwide contractor as well. But the fact that you had so many Germans here, it was a terrific boost for the local economy. You had 1,000 Germans practically, and then you had 4,000 Irish navvies as well.
But the scheme, which was to become the model for large-scale electrification projects worldwide, was fraught with difficulties, including many industrial injuries and deaths.
The biggest problem for the Germans was getting suitable labour, skilled labour, because the people were coming from exchanges and coming from farms and coming from towns and cities, but they had no experience, say, for example, of driving trains and working on huge sites where safety was such a factor. There were some dreadful accidents here because of their inexperience, and the Germans railed against that.
The ESB was set up in 1927, and amazingly, despite its problems, the project came in on time and within budget and generated enough electricity to power the entire country's needs for some years.
There was a great atmosphere, and there was, as I said, there was some great characters, and we had about 2 or 3 buses full coming from Limerick during the overhauls. And the workers would get an hour and a quarter to facilitate going to Limerick to have their dinner. The hours were very sociable, except for the shift workers. You had 3 different areas of shift. You had the control room and the machine floor and the turbine gallery. But otherwise, the hours were perfect.
When you're in the dark and you want to see, you need electricity. RTE Electricity.
The power station has been upgraded over the years, but the essential structure generating electricity remains that which was built and commissioned in the 1920s.
We're standing right here now on top of Ardnacrusha Dam. It's a 30-metre high dam. And looking back upstream, we're looking at the headrace canal, which feeds into the dam. The headrace canal is 12.5 kilometres long, and it connects Partine Weir to Ardnacrusha Dam. The purpose of building the headrace canal was to concentrate the 30-metre fall that existed between Lough Derg and the estuary in Limerick in one place. We're standing here at the downstream side of the dam now, but still on the top of the dam. And you can look down there and you can get a feel and an appreciation for the fall we have. Looking down there, water level is at sea level. There are 4 pipes there feeding the 4 turbines, generators. We call them penstocks. Each one of those takes 100 tons of water per second. The dam incorporated a navigation lock in 2 stages, which raises boats 30 metres from the downstream side up to the upstream side. And obviously boats can go down as well.
All the hydroelectric stations in Ireland are now controlled from Wicklow, but water flow management is still an essential part of what they do here in Ardnacrusha.
Water management function is very important in that we control the level of Lough Derg. So we manage the inflow to Lough Derg. We look at the inflow. So every day we look at rainfalls, we look at forecasts, and we decide then how much power we must produce in order to keep the level of Lough Derg steady. Also, of course, in time of a flood, we can take 400 tons per second down through the station here. But in a flood, we had a flood in 2009 where there was 900 tons per second coming into Lough Derg. If we didn't have Ardnacrusha, the whole lot would have to go down the old river.
The conservation hatchery in nearby Partine was set up more than half a century ago to rear and release fish stocks to offset the effects of the scheme on the local fish population.
The reason for that is ESB have turbine sets where we generate electricity from our hydroelectric station in Ardnacrusha, and that has a negative effect on fish. Fish are killed as they go through those turbines. There's also a slowing up of the migration of adult fish as they come upstream. The net benefit as such is that we release fish into the catchment to compensate for the negative effects of hydrogeneration.
Although it now only provides a small fraction of the country's energy needs, Ardnacrusha's sustainability is still its trump card.
Here at Ardnacrusha we can produce 92 megawatts of electricity, which is about as much as would be required to power the houses, say, in a town the size of Sligo. So it is a green energy, it's renewable. Although it might only be 2% of what Ireland needs in total, it's still very viable. It will be here into the future. A dam is a very long-standing structure, so we will have a future here, and it's part of ESB's sustainability programme to be carbon neutral by 2035, to promote wind and hydro stations like Ardnacrusha here.
The general recognition, say for example, there's some time ago the American Society of Civil Engineers conferred a landmark award on Ardnacrusha, which puts it in the same league as the Eiffel Tower, the Forth Bridge and the Panama Canal. It was an extraordinary achievement, and it's still a national monument, and a monument to great courage and enterprise and vision.
And a reminder that the Taoiseach will be honouring this special year for the ESB when he visits Ardnacrusha tomorrow. Of course, in many ways, Ardnacrusha became a flagship power station for the ESB, symbolising a modern Ireland by producing electricity for past and future generations. Well, as we are all well aware, boating is a huge part of life on the Shannon. And when the power station was being developed, the ESB made a special lift for boats. So when Nationwide was offered the opportunity to join a group from Waterways Ireland, we sent Tom McSweeney along. And in his report, we see the sights and sounds that very few people experience from the deck of a boat being lifted 100 feet up and through the dam.
Corbally in Limerick City isn't a place one would associate a lot with boating, but on this morning, as a small fleet of motor cruisers and barges sets off up the Shannon, a little history is being made on a particularly beautiful stretch of water. Aboard are inland waterways enthusiasts from Lough Neagh and the River Bann in Northern Ireland, joining colleagues from the Lough Derg branch of the Inland Waterways Association.
Well, this is a return visit. Last year the Lough Derg branch of the Inland Waterways Association came north to Northern Ireland. This is our opportunity to repair that and come south to see the lower Shannon. To me, this is what embodies the whole idea of the Inland Waterways Association of Ireland, because this is cooperation. New friendships, partnerships, relationships are being created.
So all good at the present time in north-south relationships then?
As far as the Inland Waterways Association is concerned, they couldn't be better.
We're all waterways enthusiasts. We have the same passion for our waterways, but they're completely different. And it's a way of getting to know people. Friendships develop and everything else. But it's also an opportunity to show off what we have.
The northern visitors are about to see one of the wonders of the waterways, Ardnacrusha, a fortress-like barrier on the Shannon, stark, dramatic as it towers above the river. Built in the 20s and amazingly engineered to such effect that it's still to be marvelled at and in use in this technological age, nearly 80 years later. Ardnacrusha was a barrier put across the river, generating electricity, but engineered to provide a boat lift that hoists vessels 100 feet from one level of the Shannon to the other. As Limerick City has again found its maritime heritage and developed its riverside facilities, Ardnacrusha is coming more into use, and for the northern visitors, it's impressive.
No, I've never been to Ardnacrusha before, and I must say I'm very impressed with what I've seen. It's something completely different to what we have to offer in Northern Ireland. Nearly 80 years ago, and unbelievable in the condition that it's in today, and still operating and still providing electricity for the national grid.
In the first lock, the keeper pumps water in slowly, carefully, to lift the boats. As they rise, people are amazed, fascinated at what they're seeing, something to be experienced only on a boat.
I'm fascinated. One lift of 60 feet and the other of 40 feet. It's very, very interesting, and certainly very educating for us from the north.
Ardnacrusha is one of the 7 wonders of Ireland. I don't know what the other 6 are, but this is definitely something that people should see.
Looking down from high up on the lock gates, the boats are dwarfed in size as lifting begins in the second lock to complete the hoisting of the vessels 100 feet. Impressive and dramatic.
Local people don't appreciate the amenity that they have on their doorstep. And the people of Limerick, I don't think, really realise what has happened down there. And it will take a little bit of time before people realise what amenity they have. It's something to be very, very proud of.
We're now trying to encourage people to use the waterway more and to develop a number of products around it, developing in Limerick City and in the link to Lough Derg and beyond, and the link into the estuary. So an event like this, where north and south boaters are getting together for the weekend, we're very keen to encourage those sorts of events, to expose the waterway to people and let them see how they could use it.
Barge 68M emerges onto a new level of the Shannon, a boat to which its owner has devoted several years of his life restoring and conserving what was originally a vessel that carried Guinness, flour, beet and other general cargo when the waterways were major transport routes.
It was built in 1936, so it's one of the younger of the Grand Canal Company barges. A number of barges are around 100 years old. In fact, some of them over 150 years old. This was a canal boat, and it drew cargo primarily from Dublin to Limerick. It took 5 years, but that was just work that was done during the winter, and then we used it every summer. So we got the use of it all the time. We're all waterways enthusiasts. We have the same passion for our waterways, but they're completely different.
I think it's something that's just in the soul, a love of nature, a love of the environment, a love of the waterways. Waterways are a great leveller among people. Certainly no class distinction when you're out in a boat. Everybody's to fend for themselves, and everyone helps each other. There's great cooperation, great camaraderie from one to another.
And since the recording of that story 3 years ago, many other boatmen and women have made the journey through the locks and over the dam.
A ceremony was held at Ardnacrusha Power Station in County Clare this afternoon to mark the 85th anniversary of the ESB. It was attended by former Taoiseach Liam Cosgrave. As a young boy, he was at the official opening at Ardnacrusha in 1929, along with his father W.T Cosgrave, the first leader of the new Irish state.
The former Taoiseach Liam Cosgrave was back in Ardnacrusha today. Now aged 92, he'd first come here when he was just 9 years of age. It was the formal opening of the station in 1929, and he attended along with his mother Louisa, his brother Michael, and his father W.T Cosgrave, who was president of the Executive Council in the first Free State government. The giant hydroelectric station, harnessing the waters of the Shannon, was one of the biggest engineering projects of that time, employing 5,000 people and costing £5.2 million, a fifth of the government's budget at the time. Mr Cosgrave was presented with a portrait of his late father by the Taoiseach Mr Kenny, a work by artist Sean Keating, who painted extensively on the Shannon scheme.
Oh, it means a lot because they're very kind to present me with a copy of a painting by Sean Keating. Well, I knew Keating. He lived near me, actually. On 2 occasions he moved. One time he lived up the hill near the Featherbed Mountain. And then, of course, I knew Justin, his son, while we were together in government.
It was a day of memories dedicated to the pioneering spirit of those individuals and workers who'd made the Ardnacrusha scheme a reality.
We should never forget that when this state was founded, there wasn't any outside capital available. This had to be a political decision taken with courage to put in a massive project by standards at that time, with the understanding that the consequences of it were for the benefit of the people.
Kathy Halloran, RTE News, Ardnacrusha, County Clare.
A lot of owners of the water, a lot of people claim ownership of the water. Again, how are you? Very welcome. How are you?
Great. All right. Jackson, how are you doing?
Very good. Very welcome.
Welcome here today on Taoiseach Enda Kenny, former Taoiseach Liam Cosgrave, Ministers Michael Noonan, Pat Rabbitt, Minister of State Jan O'Sullivan, elected representatives, His Excellency Dr. Eckhard Lupmar, all of the invited guests and my ESB colleagues. And I'd very much like to welcome my own station staff here, who I think have done a wonderful job in preparing the station for the event today, and I would like to thank them, and Tom Hayes would like to thank them very much for that.
It was in 1924 that the government, under Liam Cosgrave's father, initiated talks with Siemens to construct the station we're now in today. And 2 other names are very, very important in the development of this station: Patrick McGilligan and Tom McLaughlin. And I'm delighted to be able to welcome members of their family here today.
I think it's only right that we should remember
on a day like today, those persons of honour and bravery and courage and vision who set about doing this project as part of the building of the Irish state in the early years of the century before last. Because those too were obviously very uncertain times, and their descendants, both politically and by families today, we are witnesses to their conviction, to their success, and to their endeavours.
Well, I'd like to especially thank the chairman and the directors and staff of the ESB for the invitation to come here. It's a great privilege, and for me recalls a unique occasion. The record of the ESB in this country is, as the Taoiseach said, quite remarkable. It's remarkable because it was initiated at a time when there was no outside money. There was no money from Marshall Aid, and of course still less, no money from the European Union. And the undertaking was initiated by the then government with immense courage, foresight, imagination and enterprise.
The fact that some 96% of the energy demand of the country was supplied by this project is truly remarkable. Today it supplies about 2%, and that shows you the journey that we have come and shows you how the country has developed industrially and economically.
To the generations of ESB staff, exemplified by the Ardnacrusha staff, whose pride in this great company and in this station are here on show for all to see today. Catherine and the Ardnacrusha staff, very, very well done. In 15 years' time, ESB will be 100 years old. As Chief Executive, it is my ambition that ESB will continue to grow and to prosper, both at home and internationally, delivering electricity generation and critical network infrastructure to support the needs of a modern, sustainable economy and our society.